Jefferson City for this week at Missouri Times Midweek Update. All night filibuster still continuing in the Senate, the House passing things, going home like they have real jobs. And we are joined now by a lady that's been at the center of one of the most contentious issues over the last 2 years. They call it the Kansas City landfill, right? Jenny Monheiser, thanks for the time.
Hey, thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Once upon a time, in a far, far off land, I heard Republicans talk about property rights. Now, when they do, you kind of do the. It is an amazing thing to hear the same people that talk about property rights and not picking winners and losers. You're a person that you had property that you were buying,
right,
that you had title to, and you had people that they had property they had a title to, right?
Right.
In the normal Republican world, where I came up with these crazy people like Peter Kinder and Matt Blunt, you do what you want with your property. I do what I want with my property. But in the new world of victim Republicans, I do what I want with my property, and I tell you what to do with your property, right?
It appears as though that's correct. Yes.
It's the damnedest thing. And these are, for folks that haven't followed this, you're going to put a landfill in South Kansas City, right on the Jackson-Cass County line.
Right.
You acquired some properties, put together some parcels, however it was, own some of it, have options on some of it, maybe, right?
Under contract, yeah.
Correct. And so you were going to build a landfill. Mm-hmm. Building a landfill is a complicated process, lots of regulation. You were going through all those processes. Now, you did not have the city's sign off yet. You needed the city to change some zoning to put it in, right?
Correct.
And you had not got to that part yet, right?
Right.
There's a whole, I'm sure, a packet this thick of stuff to go through.
Lots and lots of steps. Yep.
And you were not to that step yet. And the state of Missouri comes in and says, we're going to suspend our property rights campaign, and we're just going to tell you what to do with your property. And essentially picked winners and losers, and all these conservatives bullied you out of your property. Am I wrong?
You're right. So in this case, I had a piece of property in South Kansas City. My husband and I are in the waste industry. We were trying to come up with a solution for our region, the trash problem that we have in our region.
And make some money.
Yeah.
I'm a Republican. I thought they were Republicans. I'm for making money.
And
Doug Beck, he's not for making money. I'm for making money. You're going to make money off this, right?
I like Doug Beck.
It's American. I love Doug. But Doug, he views money differently than I do. I want all of my money, and I want Doug's money too. Doug's very nice. He'll let everybody have their own amount of money. But they're Republicans. Who's not for making money? Hell, don't be a damn Democrat. You're not for making money, right?
Well, I was trying to further my business also in an industry where, there's a need. There's definitely a need for a landfill in our area. I think that the property rights argument got off the tracks.
Well, fundamentally, property rights. Now, Kelton, you tell me. You're a high-level multimedia producer. They even wear sock hats to work. That's how much he knows about computers. I'm a simple white trash hillbilly. Kelton, would property rights be, I own my land that I had to work hard and pay for. The government takes so much of your damn money. The little pittance you get left after they take out taxes, you go buy a piece of land, right?
Well, that sounds correct.
And I buy a piece of land. And property rights would be, you do what you want with your land, and I'll do what I want with my land. And you leave me the hell alone, and we built a big, tall fence to keep me off of your property, right? That's property rights.
It sounds very John Locke.
Republican property rights are, you buy your land, I'll buy my land, then I tell you what to do with your land, right?
It sure seems
trying to keep up here. It's a brave new world we're in, a lot like socialism. So how shocked were you? I mean, I can see Democrats, they're generally government being more in control of things. It's a fine argument to have, a more liberal view, that when you thought, well, okay, the Democrats are going to tell me what to do with my land, right? They're generally poor, and they can't buy the land, so they want to. But were you shocked when the Republicans said, no, I want to tell you what to do with your land?
I have been shocked at all of it, actually. Like, when Aiden and I decided to go down this road and get a piece of property and try to put a landfill there, we're not dumb. We thought there would be some people that probably didn't want a landfill in that area. We had no idea that we would end up down here in Jeff City, and we had no idea at the extent of which people would go to try to hurt us, and personally and with our business. So yes, shocked would be an understatement.
I have taken Searpoy's tour of valor around the landfill site, the former landfill site, and there's people with signs up, really hateful things, with your name splashed right on it.
Right.
Your kids can see. It really took a different tone on. I mean, and a lot of it came from the Cass County side. Well, so when this thing kind of got unhinged, right? Did you think, well, maybe this isn't the move?
You know, what I thought and what I have been saying all along is that when people are operating out of fear, they sometimes do things that are uncharacteristic or you know, over the top. And I think that's what's happened here. There was very early on a lot of misinformation spread via internet. And, you know, people were responding to what they felt like was something that was going to be harmful to them and their family. And that's just not the facts. And so for me, I think that, you know, it got real out of hand because of social media. And, you know, you can put anything on social media and people will take it to the bank.
I thought there was, though, one of the more organized and effective, I guess you'd call it actually grassroots folks coming together to oppose the project, which is their right.
Right.
I was a little surprised, though. Why the hell weren't they at Kansas City Hall? Why were they in Jeff City? I mean, I assume you expected there's a planning and zoning process. I was mayor of my hometown for a couple of years. I had to sit on planning and zoning, which was the worst possible boring thing.
Right.
But at that point, if you want to put in a Hardee's or something in a neighborhood, the local folks come in and say we want it or we don't want it. That's kind of the part. The opposition, I would assume, but it came with the planning and zoning process. That's kind of how government's set up. Were you surprised that folks in Jeff City thought they should be the Kansas City Planning and Zoning Department?
Well, I think that the neighborhood that's closest to where the landfill was going to be in Cass County has some elected officials living there. And, you know, I think they went about this in a way that they thought that they were going to be most productive. I don't know that the people in Cass County felt like they would be able to move the people in Kansas City, the elected officials in Kansas City. And so, you know, they went after, you know, state regulators to try to help them. And here we are.
I saw Cinder Bratton, who represents Cass County. It was humorous. I heard some senators say, well, you know, I think once his landfill issue is done, I think Rick will kind of change a little bit of his tactics and be a more productive member of the Senate. I think he's holding the floor right now in the filibuster.
Is he?
Yeah.
I haven't been listening today.
I was like, wow, that is to Rick's credit, I doubt Rick ever said that to anybody, that he was going to try to be a better senator. I don't think that was ever his promise. But I think it was funny to watch folks grasp at straws. And then, of course, when you get desperate, like I think they are, you end up with accomplishing nothing. So the governor has this bill. He could sign it or veto it, right?
Right.
What is the bill they ultimately passed that you did an agreement on? What was the content of it?
So currently in Kansas City, and only in Kansas City, there is a law that says that if you're going to put a landfill closer than half a mile to another jurisdiction, then that jurisdiction also gets a right to either approve or veto the project. This bill that has passed through the House and through the Senate states that half a mile buffer is now a mile for Kansas City. So if there's going to be a landfill anywhere in the city of Kansas City that is closer than a mile, if the governor signs this bill, the other jurisdictions will have veto power over that.
So essentially ends your project.
Right.
It's almost like they picked a winner and a loser, right?
I would say in the end, we came to the table and we made an agreement with Raymore that we can live with. Is it the best case scenario for us? No. The best case scenario for us would have been for us to be able to go through the processes to make sure.
Or it might have been if they want to buy land, they do what they want with their land, and you do what you want with your land.
Right.
It would almost be like property rights, right?
Almost like that.
Yeah.
And, you know, to be fair, I personally feel the same way you do, right? Like there are processes and rules in line for property rights that both protect the property owner and the people around, the area. But we were unable to go through that process in this case. And so, and go by those rules.
We had a thing a few years ago. They were trying to ban cattle farms and hog farms.
Yeah, I heard about it.
And folks had to come. I mean, really, city people, no offense, but they want to be in everyone's business. It's the damnedest thing. I mean, they're mostly suburban people. The city people ain't too bad. It's the suburban people. God, I mean, they just complain all the damn. No offense, but your neighbors, they just whine all the damn time. You don't have this problem in Dexter, right? People just mind their own business. If you don't like your neighbor, you put up a fence. Right. But suburban people, God bless. I mean, them people. Well, they're whining right now. I mean, they never stop whining. I really question if they're actually even Missourian sometimes. But back to this. Do you think the governor signs the bill?
I'm hopeful that he does. I think that, at the end of the day, this is the way that I can move forward, and, that the people that oppose this can move forward. And, I'm still in the waste management industry, and Aiden and I will still look for a solution for the region. And
let's say the governor decides he's for property rights, and vetoes this. What happens?
We're back at square one, back doing the same thing we've always been doing.
So
fighting legislation.
In this huge list of things you have to do to create a landfill in Missouri,
right?
How close are you to going to Kansas City and asking for a zoning change?
Well, last year, if you remember, the budget was filibustered, and in an effort for that to not continue, the mayor of Kansas City put a moratorium in place until June of this year on landfills. So June would have been when we would start the process with the city to get it rezoned and get a special use permit.
So if the governor decides he's for property rights, he steps out of the Republican Party mantra and decides he's for, I guess he may go back in time, right? And be for like when he was a state senator, that guy. If that guy shows up to work and vetoes this bill, do you move forward in June for a zoning change?
Yeah, I think, if we can't get this negotiation done, then we have no choice but to continue down the same path that we were on.
If somebody in that neighborhood came to you and said, we want to buy your property, all the stuff you got, everything's for sale, right?
Right.
You'd cut a deal with somebody.
I would. And, and that's
Are you surprised they didn't come down and say, hey, if somebody's that red-assed about it, why didn't they just come over to your house and, get a beer out and say, okay, what would you take for the property? And you just have a negotiation. And I mean, hell, I have to think there is a price that property you'd sell that property for, right?
Sure.
Ain't that how it, normally things work? If I want something of yours, I don't run to the government to harass you. I go buy it, right?
Right. Well, in the end, that's basically what happened, right? There was a settlement for us to agree to not put a landfill there. We are selling a portion of the property to the city of Raymore. I think that they want to maybe look at putting some infrastructure, a road or something in there. And so that's basically what happened at the end of the day. They came to us and said, here's what we can do. We negotiated that with them, and then ultimately all agreed on an end result. And now we're just waiting for the end result to happen with the governor.
Do you want to see the governor sign this?
Yeah, I do.
I feel like, as someone that's watched this, not super closely, but certainly watched this, I feel like you're not as excited about the deal as you are to kind of the government's harassed you so long. It feels to me like you're just tired of it. Is that right?
It's been a long road. I'm not going to lie. And,
is that how the government should do that? I mean, they elect all these folks that prattle on with being conservative. Isn't conservative means leaving people the hell alone? These folks don't leave people the hell alone. That's a fact.
Yeah. And, I think that goes back to what we were talking about before. People do things that are maybe not characteristic of them in general when they're worried or scared. And unfortunately, we couldn't get a hold of the misinformation quick enough. And it, you know how the internet is, spread like wildfire.
Well, I'm talking about spreading white wildfire. I think my buddy Jim from Wardsville gave me this terrific Bavaria Stein. Look at that. Can't beat it. You got the Lederhosen. I mean, it looks outstanding.
Maybe I should have one.
Oh, you probably do. I think everybody needs at least one Bavaria Stein. Thank you, Jim. I sure appreciate it. And while I'm talking about this, we're talking about issues like property rights up in the great Northwest, where the United Fiber is. They're pretty big property rights folks. I have a feeling this would not have happened the same way in Andrew County. This might have been settled a little differently. And then when you become to Jeff City, where's the one hotel you stay at? I mean, really.
Courtyard by Marriott.
There's just no two ways about it. If you're trying to come down for last 2 week session, book now. Don't text me at 4 o'clock next Wednesday. I need a hotel room. I can't. I mean, I might get Randolph to rent you like a manger, but that's about it. I mean, there is no room at the inn if you don't get in now. Make your hell, what you ought to do is make your veto session reservations now. Because, I mean, there is no – the Courtyard, I mean, once they start advertising on this show, boom, the place is limited, full up. Don't text me at 4 o'clock wanting a room. Get in now. And if it's full, I'll try to work on it. But you got to book now.
Scott, did you know that I'm actually grew up in Northwest Missouri, so I'm not suburban or city?
Well, I knew I liked you for a reason. I really couldn't imagine liking somebody from Lee Summit all that much. But so looking back on this, I mean, it looks like a cautionary tale to other developers in the state. In Missouri, if the government doesn't want you to do something, they'll just invent a law and bug the shit out of you, right?
Right.
I mean,
it looks like that in our case, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, as a businesswoman yourself, this is a cautionary situation, I think. It looks like to me be damn careful dealing with Missouri, because in Missouri, what's theirs is theirs and what's yours is theirs.
Right. Yeah. In our case, that is kind of how it panned out, unfortunately. Hopefully moving forward, we don't deal with the same thing, you know?
Do you have a little bit of heart, though? I mean, I met some of the people that live there.
Right.
They were really afraid.
Yep.
And that was sincere.
Yeah.
And my heart goes out to those folks that, you know, I don't have I'm not a real estate guy, don't know a lot about landfills, but your heart did go out to some of those folks that were truly afraid.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I hated it.
Then going forward, you got another project in mind? I mean, if you're in the waste business, do you look at any other sites to put a landfill in?
We're looking all over. We're gonna try to move forward, and we set out to solve a problem. That problem is not solved, and so we'll look and try to find a solution. Where would be an ideal spot if not there? I mean, what type of place, if you're looking to put a landfill in, what types of places do you look at? What are some characteristics you'd be looking for? Right. So, you know, the distance from the city center of Kansas City is a big portion of that. I mean, the further you have to haul the trash, the more it costs, right? So that's one thing. There are a list of 30 things from a 30,000 foot view. You can't displace a species of animals. The topography has to be right. The WOTUS,
the hippies get involved, huh? Shit.
The waterways have to be good or appropriate there. The water table underneath.
Annoying group of people in the environmentalist. My God.
Those people have not messed with me very much. I haven't had to deal with them very much up to this point. I'm sure had we gotten a little further down the road, then potentially, but we were
like the hippies wear Birkenstocks. The suburban people wear those sandals.
I have
where
Birkenstocks.
Their toe sticks out. Yeah, hippies wear Birkenstocks, and then the suburban people though they wear those sandals, but you can see their toes, like little strappy things.
Yeah.
Sometimes they wear socks.
I have some of those too. Oh, I wouldn't wear them with socks. Though.
Well, see, you're not from Lee Summit. That's why. What part of the great Northwest are you from?
Gentry County.
Oh, good folks in Gentry County. Did you know Gentry County? An interesting thing. Was kind of created right before the Civil War. Back in the day, this is how we should go back to. Every county got one rep. Think how much better that legislature would be if you only had one person from St. Charles.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, I don't know why they don't go back to that now, but so every county had a rep. And they knew they were going to have a constitutional convention. It was going to be talk about slavery. And it was going to the thought was it would go along the lines of the state legislature. So a lot of counties split slave and free. Gentry County was a free county because, I mean, the rolling hills, not a lot of roll crops, right? You got a lot more cattle up there, especially back then. And so where you had cattle, you didn't have slavery because what you do with slaves on a cattle farm. There's
Right.
not a lot to do compared to a row crop farm. So a lot of counties split right before the Civil War, so they have two. So Gentry County came about. If you look back in history and when it actually became a state, it was in a big swash of counties that were created, essentially trying to nudge up on whether Missouri would be a free or a slave state.
Huh.
But how much better,
didn't know.
Kelton? I mean, right now, how much better would the state legislature be if it was one rep per county?
Well, I imagine my job would be a lot easier.
Well, yeah. I mean,
Maybe you wouldn't have a job then.
it might be so harmonious and normal that there'd be no fun in covering it, right?
I guess we'd just be out of business.
So currently, there are how many reps per county? Like
Well,
it's
by
just
population.
different.
Yeah, it's really a stupid process. They've really mucked it up. The court came in and said you can't do it that way anymore. They were wrong about that. It'd have been way better. I mean, just think about this. Do you need another person from St. Charles, or would you like one from Reynolds County and one from Shannon County? You're going to get way better folks in Shannon and Reynolds County.
How many counties are in Missouri?
114 plus City of St. Louis.
So we would have 115 reps instead of.
Yeah. Way better. They came in at one point and they gave St. Louis County and City a few more. I get, because I'm sure they were whining if I had to guess. I think they gave Jackson County a few more. But for the most part, is one per county.
Yeah.
And they could just ignore all the goofs from the suburbs, which is kind of what they should do now, actually. But it was easier then when there were fewer of them.
Right.
I mean, imagine having another Cameron Parker in there. I mean, just reasonable people.
I like her a lot.
Jeff Myers, just like.
You know, she's a basketball player.
Yeah, I did know that. Where she's from, though, she's very fortunate. Like after you shoot the ball, it don't roll down any hills because there ain't no hills. So like where I'm
if you're
from,
playing outside.
Yeah. Well, I played outside when I was a kid, and every time we'd make it, even if you miss a
have
shot
to
for
chase
sure,
it.
if you make one, it rolled down the hill and you had to run and get it.
Gotcha.
Pain in the ass. But where Cameron's from, they took care of that. There's just no hills.
Yeah.
So she would never chase a damn ball around. Probably makes you more apt to play basketball. As you might tell from my sleek physique, I was not much of a basketball player.
Yeah. I wouldn't have guessed that about you. I would say maybe you could hoop.
Not at all. Not in
You
any
didn't
way.
play. Did you play football?
Where my school is too small. I played one quarter of basketball and realized this was not my calling. And I played baseball all the way up and through. Had a great time with it. So looking forward, if you had somebody that was doing a project in the state of Missouri, well, give them some advice.
I think that going into it with your eyes wide open in all of the potential possibilities that could happen, including state legislation, is something that you need to be aware of. I was not. I had no idea.
Well, there was no there was laws
Right.
that you knew about, right?
Right.
Then they just create new ones to bug you.
I had no idea that I would end up down here for 2 years. So I would say make sure that you have the right people in place to be able to see your project through and know all the
You almost
possibilities.
need government insurance, right?
Yes.
You need
That'd
insurance
be
to keep
good.
the damn government off you.
That'd be good.
Yeah, this is an interesting thing. And I go back to, it was a very concerted effort. I thought very successful effort by the folks that were the homeowners around there.
Yeah.
And I think it'd be impossible to have some sympathy for those folks.
Right.
But at the end of the day, I mean, if you don't ever really own your land, what the hell do you own? I hear people whining about they have to pay property tax on their vehicle, and I don't like that either. But at least it's your vehicle, right?
Right.
At least the government come out and say, well, no, you got to drive it in reverse all the time now. So they devalue it. It's a really bizarre chapter of history. And the folks that you would think would have been the loudest folks yelling, no, do what you want with your land. Leave these people alone. We're all up in your business.
Yeah. You know, I've heard you say this a million times, and I believe it to be true, that if we are not paying attention to what's happening in the elections in our area, if we are not involved in those, and which has been something that has been very eye-opening. And, you know, I didn't pay much attention to that before all this happened. I'll forever pay more attention. But if you're in your area not paying attention, who your local elections, who you're voting for, state, federal, you're doing a huge injustice to your community and to your family and to your business. And so if there's one thing that I could say, I would say you have to pay attention to who's being elected to represent you.
Well, I think that's true. And I think even more than that, to the extent people pay attention anymore, it's almost like they're just so damn mad that they don't think any of it matters.
Right.
Until it does matter.
Right.
I mean, if somebody's that mad, can they really produce for you? I mean, do they? I find like people that are so angry, a lot of times they'll talk about property rights.
Right.
Until the situation doesn't fit, because they're not really principled.
Right.
They're just mad.
Right.
I think you need people that have a little bit of courage and conviction, right? Because I think when you don't, you end up with fiascos like this.
Right. Yep.
I was over in Henry County for Kelton Show, Missouri. We're going to have that out today, tomorrow.
Today.
We did Henry County, the home of Shannon Cooper, the Dorman House right here. The old boy remodeling this. He's a cattleman. He's even going to let Mike Deering come tour it if he's supervised. He's got to have his wife sign a permission slip. But the Dorman House, this is the house of the judge in town. So I don't know how much you know about the history of, well, just south of where you are. The federal government signed the Executive Order 11 in the Civil War to rape, pillage, burn, and exterminate the entire population of 4 counties. Yeah. And a United States Senator, awful bastard from Kansas, he became a general. He led a group over and burned Osceola to the ground. Osceola used to be a big town. It's just now.
I know some people from there.
170 years later, got back to what it was, and they were coming to Clinton. He sent a letter that said, "I'm coming to burn Clinton." And Judge Dorman wrote out and met him and talked him out of it. So that's the house. They're restoring it. Supposed to be ready for the 4th of July. I may see if I can get Casey to go over there with me and take a look at it. But it's a real historic thing. We talked about all the history of Henry County. A lot happened in Henry County you might not even think about. The Anheuser-Busch building there is gorgeous.
Really?
I mean, it is a beautiful structure. It's the old bottling plant they had there because it was easy to ship because they're right there. Clinton's right there on the railroad lines.
Yeah.
But hell of a place, Henry County, good folks. Sit down with the Farm Bureau president, sit down with the presiding commissioner, county clerk, lady from the History Society. And we mostly just talked about Shannon Cooper the whole time, but it was good times. Let's look for Show Missouri. It'll be out in now Kelton's got all the podcasting stuff, right?
Absolutely.
I'm telling you, when he put that sock hat on, things just turned a corner. The computer started humming, everything started working out right.
When you guys go, you and Case tell me.
Yeah, it ain't real far from where you are.
No.
I think that if you ask anybody in Western Missouri, they can tell you exactly how many minutes it takes to get to Arrowhead.
Yeah.
58 minutes to get to Arrowhead from Clinton, from downtown Clinton.
Oh.
And then Clinton's got beautiful downtown square. Real nice. It's interesting. When they built the courthouse, they put a big, beautiful tower on top of it. And they tore it down because it leaked, which it's hard to get them domes not to leak. I mean, especially back then, I can't even imagine. But now they probably could. So they're talking about putting it back historically
they should.
the right way. And like every good presiding commissioner, the commissioner told me, well, bring me the money and we'll do it. Yeah, commissioners are notoriously cheap. That's their job to squeeze the nickels. So what's been your experiences here? What'd you think about, met a lot of folks.
I did.
What'd you think of the process overall? Folks you got to meet.
Interesting. I've met some really, really great people that I think will be lifelong friends of mine. I've met equally as not so great people that, I can pass on. It's interesting, and I'm not sure that I'll be out of government all the way.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
It is interesting. I mean, honestly, so many people that work in government, in lobbying, work in a department or whatever, a lot of it started by they're living their life and government comes out and messes with them. And they interact, and many stories start with interacting with the government, whether they wanted to do it then that way or not.
Right.
And then, you see a progression that leads you into more and more of it.
Right.
So that's that. I'm very glad that it didn't sour you on the whole process. If I was you, I'd still be a little bit red-assed. I think it is a cautionary tale to other folks.
Yeah.
In Missouri that you think you have planning and zoning to deal with. No, you have the Missouri legislature to deal with.
Right.
Which is a scary thought for most folks. I mean, they're not exactly known as the most sane people in the state.
Right.
Well, I'm glad to hear that it's something you're not going to totally just have a terrible taste in your mouth and we're not going to see anymore. I think that's a good thing. And I think it's good years after this. I think it'll be good for you to be around, for you to tell your tale to folks.
Right.
To kind of be a reminder of, you're for property rights. Oh, wait a minute. Tell me more about this property right you're for.
Right.
You feel like you have the right to run my business with your, anyhow, well, I appreciate the time. I guess we'll go back and check on the filibuster. It's still going on. There is no state budget passed yet. There is no FRA. The suburban senators are filibustering rural hospitals. I just think they don't care if they go out of business. Rural people, we are too nice. We are too nice. We are too nice. And example, 8 million today is they're doing like triple stamp, double secret probation bills for Planned Parenthood. That, well, if you ban them for the 8th time, which of course the court will kick out for the 8th time, then somehow we'll let you pass and have rural hospitals. And they do this deal. And of course, the goalposts move.
Right.
Now you got to do, I think Lincoln's got to give their dogs a bath, stand on his head. And I think Cindy has to clean their gutters out every other month. Then they'll pass. They'll let you have a hospital in Shelby County.
Or by there, who you're talking about, the people who are filibustering?
Eigel has a group of folks. I predict the FRA will get done.
Yeah.
Just because there's no healthcare lobby going to write them a check for anything. So not a lot to gain there. The state budget is going to be a taller task, I think. I think it's going to be.
I heard you say a couple weeks ago you think they'll have to come back because it won't pass.
It is in some senators' interest for their campaigns to come back. I mean, you've heard the line, I'll get you a check after session. Can't contribute during session after session. Well, those people are lying to Doug or to Bill. He's not coming back and they're lying to him. But if there's a special session on the budget, he's got a window there. He could go collect those checks. And I think it makes a lot of sense politically.
Right.
In the House, they've kind of got ran in the budget process the last 5 years. I think they did pretty well this year. But I guess they want to give that back. I don't really understand the House's thoughts on this, but the House has kind of got boat raced. And now the House had a very successful, if you look at the Senate budget, the one they're trying to get to the floor now,
right,
it has a ton of House positions in it. I would say, I mean, I'm not sure that they took out much of the House positions, which is very rare. Now, if you force them to go to conference, I bet that changes. But as of right now, the House has more of the state budget that they authored than any time in the last 5 years. I suspect if you force the Senate Appropriations Chairman to conference, that is not how that'll come back around.
right.
But anyhow, it's an interesting time. I don't know that it works politically for some people to pass a budget right now.
Right.
I think it may be a June thing.
I think the House, I've heard really good things about Representative Cody Smith. And I think
Nice guy.
Yeah, I think that says a lot about him, that you're saying a lot of the stuff that they passed over there got.
Yeah. I think they're trying to work together. I mean, we'll see. I'm not totally, I think he may be giving up a lot of those gains right now. I'm not sure if he forces them into conference that he'll get to hang his hat on some of these wins, but you never know. That's why, as they say in baseball, it's why they play the games.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to watch. But I mean, look, the folks that have DM'd me while we're talking, there'll be a budget, there'll be an FRA. I don't know. I mean, everything's about abortion all the time, every second of every day to a chunk of people. So I don't, and there's no way to fill the hole. It's just you can never be anti-abortion enough, no matter what you do. So I assume they'll invent more things to make about abortion before it's over. And I wouldn't be surprised if some of the representatives over there in the Senate want a PQ. It's the saddest thing. The worst part of the state, the worst thing, the more you watch this, you haven't had to see one, but it's awful. Representatives work hard to get to the Senate. They get to the Senate. It's like people that move from California to Texas, right?
Right.
You leave California because all the damn government and all the, and so you come over to Texas to live free. Then you start voting like you did in California, so you can turn Texas into California and do it all over again, right?
Right.
Representatives work hard to get to the Senate. They get there. Then they start wanting to be representatives again and do PQs. It's the worst. Whatever government you hate the most, the reason you don't have to live under it at some point in your life is because the Missouri State Senate does not PQ things. You have to get some semblance of sign off from the other party, at least to allow it to move forward. It keeps such bad things happening. PQs are the worst. They're childish, they're immature, they're communist. And you watch, they'll want to do one because everything's about abortion. Every single thing has to be about abortion now. It's sad. I always go put a Post-it note over Senator Webster's eyes so he doesn't have to watch. in the hallway because it's the Republicans that want to do it. He was the Republican. Dick Webster ran that Senate with 9 members because it was a Senate.
Right.
And he could type anything, he'd pass anything. He was a senator. And it's the Republicans that want to smear shit all over the place every time. And I'm sorry, it's the suburban ones every damn time. Every damn time. The problem is suburban ones. It's the saddest thing. I don't know why. If you want to be in the House, some of them have terms they can go run for the House. Go run for the House. PQ everything. Do guns and abortion all day. Nobody will care. Nobody can pay attention. But in the Senate, God, be a senator, right? You work so hard to get there.
Why do you think PQ is a thing if it's like why would it be a thing in the Senate if it's not a Senate thing?
Well, there is some very extenuating circumstances where you have to do that. One senator once, Jet Banks, I believe it was, he had the actual original copy of the bill before they had all the electronic copies. Mm-hmm. And he took off to St. Louis with the bill. So the Senate couldn't move because they were on this. There has to be some way. Let's say a guy dies. If you have the floor and you die, well, what do you do, right?
Right.
So it's there for, once every 100 years to use. It's not there because you're a whiner and you want what you want now and you're a little baby about stuff. I thought there was a very justifiable PQ once. Senator Dempsey and Senator Justice did a deal. And she then said it didn't apply to veto session. So they passed it. It was an abortion bill, because of course it was. And then Nixon vetoed it. And they were going to override it in session. Well, she said, no, the deal doesn't apply. I thought that wasn't her best day in the Senate. And they had to PQ it. And I thought that was, if you're going to get a justifiable one, that's right. A justifiable one. Ron Richard had a thing. He goes, every year we run on one thing. And when we win the majorities, if we have the votes, we should get to do our one thing we ran on. I was against right to work, but I did think that's at least a logical thing.
Right.
It was our big issue. And to his credit, he definitely said that's what we're running on, is what we're going to do. If you elect us, the people elected him. I thought it was a bad thing to do a PQ, but at least that had some semblance of logic of how he got there, right?
Right.
And it wasn't just, the latest abortion bill, I'm going to throw a fit about so I can get on Facebook and whine. I thought that had some logic to it. But with the Kim Gardner, it always blows up in their face too. Right to work. The public rejects it 70-30.
Right.
The Kim Gardner thing never even passed. I mean, go down the list of PQs, and they're like Wile E. Coyote. They always blow up in their face. But I could see that. I bet you if it's a curse. If they PQ it, I'll bet it doesn't pass at the ballot box. Then you smeared shit on the Senate for nothing.
Yeah.
That's why if you see me call a senator, representative, whatever, that's what they are.
Sure.
You're not a senator anymore. If you do a PQ, you're not a senator. You're a representative.
I got it.
So go enjoy your life in the House.
From just an outside perspective looking in, and I've been in politics all of 2 minutes. It seems like, I don't know anything about a PQ, but it seems like this session and this session more, I've heard it's because it's an election year, that nothing is getting done at all. People are holding the floor for hours and hours and hours. And I, as an outsider, look at that and think like, for my issue, right? It was, I didn't want the bill to pass until I did. But if you're trying to get a bill passed, trying to get something done for your constituents or whatever it is, what are the options then? If people are just going to hold the floor for whatever reason for hours and hours and hours.
Well, I'll tell you, I think last year, Senator O'Loughlin came in and had a bit of a honeymoon. But all she did was tell Bill and Rick, I'll get to your legislation in the end. I'll get to it. And they figured out she can't get to it because it doesn't have the votes.
Right.
So you can go to the bill and you can vote on the bill. It'll get voted down. And they kind of let that, they went along with that until the end. And they got mad because they couldn't get their things passed because they don't have votes for them for whatever reason.
Right.
So I think, she had a honeymoon last year. This year was always just going to be miserable from the start. And I don't know, Cindy O'Loughlin is cleaning up a mess she didn't make.
Right.
And it's not easy. But I'll tell you, I think this. I think they've had this majority now for 22 years. Supermajority for 15. The governor in the supermajority for 8 now. I think every reasonable Republican policy you've done. I mean, imagine running for state rep, right? And you're out knocking doors, and you win, and you come to your first caucus full of piss and vinegar, and you're like, yes, I'm going to end abortion. Like, oh, Clyde, damn, come here, buddy. We've ended abortion.
Right.
There's
Already
no
done.
abortions.
Already done.
Oh, okay, well, I got a toddler. I want my toddler to get a bazooka. Oh, shit, Clyde, come here. I feel bad, dude. Toddlers can have bazookas in Missouri. It's all good. I'm like, oh, well, good, huh? I'm going to cut taxes. Oh, Clyde, dude, this is embarrassing. We've cut taxes 5 times in 3 years. We're in a deficit. And then he's like, well, piss. What does he do? He decides he wants to be Mr. School Board. He wants to be Mr. Planning and Zoning now. I think they've just ran out of the reason. If the Democrats took the majority tomorrow, look at all the things they would pass. Democrat policies that are all stored up ready to go. Republicans had the same list of stuff when they took over, and they've done all the ones that are reasonable. And now you're just into goofy stuff and infighting and hate. And you've accomplished what you came to do.
Right.
And running good government doesn't make a good Facebook post. So I feel for them. I mean, there'll be a whole new crop of freshman House members show up in January ready to change the world and ban abortions and give toddlers bazookas and cut taxes and be like, and they're going to be very deflated. They're going to realize once they get here, well, it's already been done.
Right.
And so it gets tough. Then you got to do dumber and more outlandish things to get attention. And then you have the Missouri House of Representatives that you see now.
Gotcha.
That's just my opinion. We'll see how it goes. I want to thank you for the time. Always enjoy the visit.
Thank you so much.
Looking forward to see what the future holds. Advise you, I just had a piss and vinegar and Schadenfreude. I'd put me a landfill in somewhere.
Yeah.
And I'd name it after a few people if I was you. But anyhow, thank you all for watching. We'll be back Sunday